If you are a solopreneur and you're wondering how you can stop procrastinating, for instance, a course launch, then this video is for you because in this video, I'll show you the reason why you procrastinate in the first place and a simple 5-step process how to fix exactly that. So, most solopreneurs, they don't procrastinate because they aren't motivated. It's actually the opposite. Most of us, we start with high motivation. We're really excited about building a course, building a launch, or whatever it is that you use to procrastinate. But that motivation fades away. And the simple reason behind it is that along the way, you little by little get stuck in perfectionism over every little detail and every little aspect, and new ideas pop up and new doubts even pop up. What if my client don't like it? What if it's not really helpful? What if I'm building the wrong thing? What if I forgot something very important? And then you do research again, you try adding another feature and adding more and more and more. And out of a sudden, you are building and building and building, and you never stop. You don't even see the end of this thing anymore. And that's how you lose momentum. That's how you lose motivation. And that's how you procrastinate and you're pushing it into the far future. By the way, all of what I'm teaching here on YouTube, you'll find everything also in my Mental Mastery Academy. The link is down in the description. It's my inner circle of solopreneurs who are building their businesses with speed and momentum and without procrastination, perfectionism, and overthinking. So check out the link in the description below. But the real problem is something completely different, and we need to talk about it. Otherwise, you'll not understand why the solution is so powerful and why it's actually the only viable solution that exists on this planet Earth, and nobody's talking about it. So, bear with me for a second. Let's dive into the deeper roots of this procrastination and perfectionism before we have a look at the solution. So, the deeper reason behind it is that school and university and later your corporate job, all of them have taught you a completely wrong understanding of how learning and development work and even how courses as such work, because I have been an instructor, teacher, and facilitator for 30 years now. So you can believe me that I know a thing or two about how teaching actually works. By the way, I even wrote my master's thesis about how learning really works and the psychology behind it. And the one thing that 99% of all institutional learning got wrong is they put the curriculum first and the student second. So if you think about it, back in school, university, and every single learning course in a corporate job is structured in the same way. They have a curriculum, and then they decide that you need to do it. It's not that you decide that you want to do it, but they decide for you. When you go to school, then the system decides for you that you need to go to school. So far, so good. But then also they decide you have to learn math, you have to learn English, you have to learn history, and all in a very specific, designed way that you have no choosing of. So while we can't easily change the system, and I don't want to dive deep into system criticism here, now when you're owning your own business, you get to choose how to do things. So you get to choose to do it the right way because you are building your own system. And the solution is you don't put the curriculum first. So it's not that you decide what your clients are going to learn. Here's an easy hack. Let the client decide, because you're an expert anyway. If you weren't the expert, you wouldn't sit here watching this video right now. So I know that might be a little bit scary for most of you, but because that means that you can't plan 100% for what the student is going to ask. Because here's the difficult thing. If you're really an expert in your area, then a student comes to you with a question and you will have the answer. Or in a more advanced modus, if you don't have the answer once, which is totally fine, you don't have to have all the answers, and you can still be an expert, because you need to know where you can find answers, because that's the big difference. Your student, your client, doesn't know where to find the answer. So you're more of an orchestrator rather than a classical teacher who, in the classical understanding, has to know everything. So there is a lot of mindset behind it. But to come to the most important point, you're not building a curriculum, you're building a so-called MVP, a minimum viable product. And if you're thinking about what you're planning right now to do for your course, think of that as 100%. And while perfecting it, you get to 120, 150, 200%, because there are no limits to learning. Every time a new question pops up, every time a new challenge pops up, you need to stack something new onto it. And that's why a minimum viable product is so powerful. So instead of building this, whatever it is, 100% solution that right now is in your head, think of a 10% solution that addresses one specific problem, has one definable process. And here comes the thing. Knowingly, you might miss something, and that's okay, because your clients, they don't pay you for delivering them all of their knowledge. They pay you to solve their problem. And here comes the good thing. All courses, no matter which system you use, no matter which platform you go for, they allow you to aggregate more content into your course. So this is a very important mindset. You're not building a course, you're building an MVP, a minimum viable product that solves one specific problem. And once you have paying clients, once you're starting to solve their problems, you'll get feedback. And based on their feedback, you will integrate more content into that course. So here's what we're doing differently. You don't put the curriculum first and the student second and put the student into an existing curriculum, forcing him to learn what you planned to learn. Instead, you're putting the student first, defining just a problem, and then letting him decide what's the next problem that you can solve. And now we come to the very simple 5-step process that helps you building your course with this mindset in mind. And the good thing is, it gives you a system, a clear path that literally makes it impossible for you to overthink and to perfect along the way, because you're just pushing through the process. And the first step is called empathize. It's all about understanding the client's situation, understanding the client's challenges, what bugs the client. You can schedule right now 5, 10, 20 interviews with prospects, people where you know they have the problem that you want to solve with your course, and then asking them questions. For instance, like, what's your biggest problem around whatever your product is trying to solve? Fitness, career coaching, building a business, whatsoever. Then the important part is that you take a lot of notes during the interview, and that takes you to the second step of the process already. And that takes you to the second step of the process, which is called defining the problem. So now you have maybe 10, 15, 20, or even more interviews, but you don't even need that much volume. You look at the patterns, like what have most of these interviews in common? What are the most common challenges that all of them address? So you are now synthesizing the patterns and the problems that get mentioned the most, and you leave out what is not mentioned so frequently. And those are the things you don't need to build them in your course right now. You might build them later, but now for your MVP, which we are getting back to in one of the later steps in the process, you are really focusing on what is most pressing for most of my clients right now. So defining the problem. And the way you define the problem is in how might we statements. So if you're a fitness coach, for instance, one of the patterns that keeps popping up in all of the interviews might be that your clients are wondering about their belly fat and they have only little time, and now they're wondering what's the best training routine. And the way you define now the problem is we want to not state the problem only. You have them, your clients gave them to you, but you want to put a solution focus on it already. And we do that by using how might we statements. For example, how might we help our clients to lose belly fat with the constraint of having only 1 hour per week? So you have a concrete problem. You formulated it in a solution focus because now you're wondering, yeah, how might I actually make that happen? There's a time constraint, there's a concrete problem. And that takes you to the third step of the process, which is the ideation phase. And that's the most fun part because now taking this how might we statement, you get to brainstorm and you can go wild here. The most important part is that you don't limit yourself. You can literally invent stuff that you think might be completely nonsense, doesn't work, it's not realistic, but that's the whole point of it, because the extreme ideas that may or may not be viable then take you to more viable ideas that take you to your actual solution. But if you leave out the wild ideas in the first place, then your product in the end will just be half as valuable. So in the ideation phase, you literally just sit down with your how might we statement and brainstorm. Luckily, nowadays with AI, you can have AI to help you with brainstorming ideas. So insert the how might we statement and then do brainstorm forth and back. So it's not about I giving you the ideas, but it's important that you give feedback, you build up new ideas, share your ideas with the AI, and then iterate. You can do that for 10, 15 minutes as long as you like. It can be really concise and short. That's the important part. And AI helps you with that. But just don't depend only on AI giving you the ideas. Because as a solopreneur, we mostly have the problem that we don't have employees. That's why we're called solopreneurs. So we can't have this conversation of ideation, which I used to do with my clients in the corporate environment. I ran workshops with 20, 40, 60 people, having small groups, ideating, sparring ideas with each other, bouncing off ideas off each other. But AI can be your sparring partner here. And that takes you to the next step, which is creating a prototype. now you take the ideas and you first prioritize, like, what do you think is viable, what is not viable. You cluster the ideas, and then you think about what could be a solution based on those ideas. So for your fitness course, for instance, maybe one of your ideas in the brainstorming was bringing people together to then train together or have a walk in the park. And then you can include this idea into your course. Or maybe it's about that you realized you actually also need to have a mindset part in as part of your course. So teaching them something about the attitude towards fitness and your belief system that helps you overcome thoughts like, yeah, it's totally normal to be overweight, obese, or just have back pain all the time. So taking this mindset module into your course could be part of your prototype. And then you take those parts. Now you have a mindset model. Now you have a community model, and build your prototype of the course around it. And how does a prototype look like? A prototype can be anything. It can be just some scribbles. So you take a notepad and write down first module, mindset, second module, community building, and so on. The important part here that you don't get carried away with all of the 100% solution that earlier you had in mind, but it's really about just designing a prototype based on the most pressing problem. So you focus on maybe only 3 or 4 modules, and then write down, what do I need to teach someone about mindset inside of the mindset module that moves the needle for that person? Like, what is the one most important thing? Not 10 or 20, one. And that's then module 1, mindset, 1 exercise. And then you have 2 or 3 other modules. Or it might even be that your whole course starts with one module only, the mindset module. And inside the mindset module, you have, for instance, 5 to 10 exercises. That's your course. That's it. If you identified that that was the most pressing challenge for your client. So now you have prototype ready. And with that prototype, here comes the most difficult part. You don't build the course yet. You might do that, but a more fun way to do is simply build a landing page, write what's part of this course, who is it for, how much does it cost, and then we come to the last phase, and the last phase is called testing. Now you send that landing page to your prospects, to your clients, to the people you interviewed, and let them choose. Oh, I've built a course just to solve your problem that we've been talking about earlier. Let me know how you like it. And then you get feedback, and feedback might be positive, that some people say, oh, I really like it, I want to purchase it right now. Or it might be constructive, that they tell you, oh, actually I like it, but I'm missing one important part. And then they tell you about what they're missing, and then you get to decide if you want to include that into your prototype or not. Best case, if some people already told you that they are excited about the course and they'd like to purchase it, you put them on a wait list, or you even let them purchase it already and say launch date is 2 weeks from here, however much time you think you will need to build a course. So you can actually get paid before you build the course. And then I'm building now something for a student with a specific problem, and I'm shipping that in 2 weeks' time or whatever I have set as a deadline, because I sold my product already. So I can't procrastinate and let my customer wait for 3, 6 months or a year, or I've heard people procrastinating like 18 months. Like, that's insane. And now you build the course. You don't build anything beyond what you put on the landing page. You just build that minimum viable product. Then you ship it. And here's the important part: the feedback never stops rolling in. So make sure to always get feedback from your customers. And if they're missing something in your product, that's not a bad thing. It's just a signal for you that you can add more videos, more tutorials, more content to your product, to your course, make it even more valuable. And when you make it more valuable, you can charge more for it. But now you're not stuck in a loop of overthinking and procrastinating and perfecting something where you never know if you'll actually sell it. But now you have sold it already, you're optimizing your product. And the best thing is you get paid for the whole process. So this is the 5-step process: empathizing, getting feedback from the customer, what's their problems, then defining the actual problem with how might we statements, brainstorming ideas, prototyping, building the first minimum viable product, that being a landing page and not the video course already, testing it, and then you can do the cycle all over again. It's not a process that stops. You can at any phase get back to an earlier phase. So in ideation, you can go back to defining the problem if you think that helps you. Now, here's the big important part. While you can always get back to earlier stages of the process, you should only do that if you think really something important is missing here. Because once you shipped your product, you will then get back to empathizing, interviewing your customers for feedback, creating new how might we statements, going through ideation again, then building a new module, or just enriching the modules that you have. This and many more tools that will help you to overcome overthinking, perfectionism, and procrastination, you will find in my Mental Mastery Academy. The link is down below in the description. And if you want to learn more about procrastination and the 2 psychological reasons behind it and how to generally fix it, not only in this very specific way that I just explained, then I have a next video for you that is linked here in the left corner. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video.